Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vibe with Kai podcast. It's your boy Kai, and I'm sitting here with Joe Schmidt. Super excited to be talking about what you're going to want to sit down and plug your earphones in and turn up the volume, because what we're talking about today is one of the most incredible stories that I was not expecting to hear about. In late, it was introduced to me in late 2022. We're talking about it now in 2023 because the book that we're going to be talking about, it comes out soon, in less than a month, February 7th, if I'm not mistaken. And that's very, very soon. So well, as soon as I heard about this story, I'm like, oh, I need to share this with all of my audience. So I'm super excited to talk about that, sitting with Joe Schmidt, the author of Under a Zambian, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yes. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure. I need to always make sure I say these things right, because I always hate when I say things wrong. Author of Under a Zambian Tree, a story that chronicles the incredible life and journey of Dora Moono Nyambe. Holy cow! I just want to kind of like just dive right into this, because this is incredible. So, just a little quick background about Joe first. Joe, you're 25, right?
Yep. That's correct. Yep.
25. You're a 25-year-old writer and ecotourism researcher, born and raised in Kohler, Wisconsin. Are you a Green Bay Packers fan?
I grew up in Wisconsin, so I'd say yes. To be honest, I'm not a big football guy, so
That's
don't ask me anything about the team. I know we're out of playoffs, but I am a Packers fan, Bucks fan, Badgers, all that good
Got it.
stuff.
Okay. All good. All good. Joe has since traveled and lived around the world. He graduated from Northeastern University with a degree in finance and economics. In 2021, he was the recipient of the prestigious U.S. Fulbright Research Grant for his proposal on the perceived economic impact of ecotourism. Schmidt's experience and passion for wild places have taken him to some of the most remote locations in the world. Have you ever been to New Jersey? That's pretty remote and crazy. Have you ever been there?
One of my best friends is actually from New Jersey, a little place called Kinnelon.
Nice.
I've never been to Kinnelon, but I've been through New Jersey with him.
Nice. That's the craziest place you'll ever go. Is this the craziest place you'll ever go? So Joe, you wrote a book here, Under a Zambian Tree. I'm not going to do this justice, but I'll kind of set everything up for you. Dora Moono Nyambe, teacher, who pretty much started from scratch, went over to a small village and just started literally teaching under a tree, and through all of the stuff that came through that entire journey, she built it up into this thing that ends up helping so many young people in that area. So let's start there. How did you get involved with this story?
Yeah, so it's all kind of one of those things where you get on social media and you start to meet some of these incredible people just randomly through this network. As you said, I was a Fulbright scholar, so I moved to Zambia in January of last year, and my plan was to live in this very remote part of the country on the border of Angola. So Zambia has 8 countries surrounding it. It's got a large border with Angola, the Congo, which is to the north, and then Tanzania, Mozambique, Malawi, and then Zimbabwe, and a tiny border with Namibia
Right.
and Botswana as well. And I was going to be on the Angolan border working there. And I thought, what better way to kind of share my journey and learn through TikTok? Because
Yes.
my younger sister was like, there's this TikTok app. I know you're not on it, but people will comment and they'll ask you questions. And you'll probably be able to meet some Zambians and learn some things from them. So I was like, okay, great, I'll get on it.
Right.
And in my first 10 days I was in the country, my account went from nothing to 10,000 followers. I got
It's
on.
fascinating. It's like
Yeah,
legitimately
it was
fascinating.
crazy. Yeah, so I was like, hey, I'm moving to Zambia. And part of it, and to be honest, with you, part of it is I had applied for the Fulbright in 2020, and I've been reading and researching about Zambia for 2 years almost,
Right.
a little bit more. And I was really excited. And I was like, hey, you have a beautiful country. You've got a ton to do here. And I'm interested in your culture and your history. And the Zambians immediately picked up on that. And so I was on national news in the first 10 days. One of the largest podcasts in the country hosted me.
Yeah.
And of course, I was just like, hey, I'm here to learn and we're going to have a great time together. And that led me to Dora. Dora saw some of those initial videos, and she was up in a village about 16 hours away from where I was researching. And she just commented on one of my videos like, hey, I'd love to have you talk to some of my students at some point. And I had no idea who this woman was. And of course,
Right.
many
Right.
people in America know who she is, but I just wasn't on TikTok yet really, and was kind of scrolling through and saw the comment, and I immediately was like, what is this woman doing? I mean, she's got
Right.
blue check mark and she's got all these followers and she's showing all these crazy videos. So
Right, right.
I researched some more about her and was just like fascinated, and sent her a message. And she was like, yeah, why don't you just come up and see me? And I was like, sure. Absolutely. So I went up and visited her, and
Mhm.
that was the start of our journey.
It's incredible because she has legitimately, improved the lives and is educating millions and millions and millions of people all over the world. And it legitimately, she like literally went there with no money, like not really nothing to her name. And she ended up just kind of teaching all these people. So if you don't mind, start from I guess what you know about the story, because obviously you were there and documenting all of this. Once that kind of started, how did it end up growing into what it is today? How did it started so humbly and so
Mhm.
small to a point now that it's just enormous? How is that even possible?
Yeah, so Dora has this incredible passion for education, but I think
Mhm,
more broadly, Dora really just cares about other human beings and wants to reduce human suffering. And I think we use a lot of buzzwords like development and
mhm,
trying to developing countries and all these different things. But Dora just saw like, hey, I have this skill set and there are people that need help, and I want to help them in
mhm.
some capacity. And her way to do that was through teaching.
Right.
So she had tons of opportunities because she had traveled and she had a good education.
Mhm,
And instead of leaving Zambia and doing some other job, she decided to move to a small village where she saw a need and start this school. And the school
mhm.
really came, she built a mud house in this
Yeah.
tiny village, and
That's
she had no money. She had a couple $100, and she was gonna use that money and start teaching. And I remember when we were first talking about it, she told me my dream at that point was to have this kind of little house on the prairie type school where like I was going to be in the middle of nowhere, a one room building, and I was just going to teach kids and help people. And if that was it, that was fine.
right.
And she was there for a couple of months, and she was making some progress, but she was still teaching underneath the tree, still living in the mud house. And her daughter wanted to get on TikTok. Her daughter was bored. She had two
Right.
adopted daughters that were living with her at the time. We can get into how many kids she's adopted and all that as well later. But
Yeah.
so her daughters were bored, and they were like, "Let's get on TikTok, mom," or whatever. And Dora was hesitant, didn't really know much about it, and she kind of out of boredom and a little bit out of loneliness was like, "Fine." Downloaded the app, posted a video, nothing happened. Posted another two, nothing happened. And her fourth video, she kind of explained what she was doing, and
Yeah.
it went crazy. I mean, now it's got I think 40 million views or
That's
something insane.
incredible. And just to
Um,
kind of clarify for the people that are just learning about the story, these are not just, just like normal children. Like these are young people who are victims of abuse, forced marriage, rape, neglect, and so much more. She has in her kindness, her knowledge, her insight it has been able to help them and push them forward despite so many things trying to stop her from succeeding and all of that. Like holy
yeah,
cow.
it is one of those stories that's truly incredible. And one
Yeah.
of the reasons I was so drawn to Dora, and I think so many others are, is you have this woman that is capable and knows it. And she's, shouting from the rooftop and saying, we're going to make change and we're going to do this. And from an outsider or a foreign perspective, it's so incredible to see someone that's doing it within their own country. I think
Yes.
right now we're looking for those, those grassroots heroes. And I think obviously in America, we've got a lot of people to look to that have kind of helped certain communities and done things in their own
Mhm.
backyard. And now in a time where the world is so connected, it's incredible to have a story where we're watching, hey, there's a Zambian woman that's doing it all by herself. She's got no institutional funding.
Mhm.
She's the boss.
Yeah.
We had this joke always whenever I'd be with her, people would kind of think that maybe I was a donor or something like that.
Right.
I would always say that I'm her driver. Like she's the boss, I'm the driver,
Yeah.
and she's calling the shots. And that's the truth. I mean, she's the one driving all of this change. And that's truly
Right.
incredible. And I think that's captured the fascination of millions around the world
Mhm.
who feel they're part of the journey and are proud of this woman, but also fascinated that
Right.
she could start from such humble beginnings and drive change throughout her nation, really.
She's humble, she's kind, she's like the picture of strength with everything that she does. And what you were mentioning, earlier, stands out to me in regards to the world in a way becoming smaller, right? Because we have our phones, we're able to connect with people literally all over the planet. in a fraction of a cent of a second, and we're able to learn so much about other cultures and other people just by opening up our phone. So that's why, like, oh, when COVID, really kicked in, March 2020, let me tell you, when I downloaded the app, I learned so much in such a small amount of time because of the fact that, we have people like you that are sharing your story. We have people like Dora sharing her story. And it's just incredible that we're able to connect the entire globe in one little world, and that people like you and her are able to affect people's lives. So with that being said, when did you know that this was something special? Like, you meet her, you get the
Yeah.
story. When did you know that this was like, oh, wait a second, this is
This is
something
for her.
unique?
Yeah, and I think, from what I'm always inspired by from some element is that there are these people around the world that look at her and don't necessarily know that much, but have this
Yeah,
faith and trust in her and are willing to open up their hearts and donate. And for me, I think naturally I have that little bit of Midwest skepticism. I was excited and thrilled by what she was doing, but I did want to go and see it. And
right.
I had this plan to go there for maybe a night, maybe 2 nights. I remember telling a friend I wasn't sure how long I'd be there.
Yeah,
And when I showed up, her expectation was, "Oh, you're gonna be here for a while. Like, you don't know when you're going back." And she kinda had that mentality, which was
yeah,
it's just so welcoming. And I stayed for a week that first time I visited, thinking I would stay for a night or 2.
yeah.
Um, and at the end of that week, I told Dora that I had a nice camera and a tripod. I said,
Hmm.
"Why don't we sit down and I'll record you?" She hadn't ever done an interview, like, for TV or anything like
Right.
that. So I was like, "Why don't I just record this for you, and I'll edit it, and I'll send it to you, and you can use it. I won't post it on any social
Yeah.
medias. You can put it on your YouTube or whatever." So I wrote down these interview questions. We had, like, 25, and we went through them the night before. And the night before the interview, she was answering these questions, and I just realized that it wasn't she had these incredible answers, and I just needed
Yeah.
to dig deeper. It wasn't gonna get there in just
Yeah.
that one interview. So next day we do the interview. I drove home, so it was like a 12 or 13-hour drive back to where I was living at the time.
Hmm.
And the next morning I woke up, I edited the video, and I was ready to send it to her, and all the magic was gone. All the love, all the kindness, all of these amazing things that I witnessed, the school is such a positive place. Even
Yeah.
being a stranger there, I was getting compliments from these kids that were practicing their English, and
Right.
she was just everyone was helping each other, and they were all excited to learn, and they all looked up to this woman. I mean, this woman was she was just a savant. I mean, she had just come down and descended into these people's lives and just created this massive change. And
Right.
watching myself interview her, I was just like, you don't get any of this from the interview.
Mhm.
And so I thought, well, we've got to do something. So I told her, let's hold off on the video. I'm going to come and see you in 3 to 4 weeks, and let me think of something better. And then over that month, I just kept thinking, God, there's got to be a book. There
Right.
has to be,
Right.
because books are not only just like they have so much more information, but they're also a legacy, and that's what this
Yes.
book is in many ways.
Yes.
No matter how well the book sells, how many copies, whatever, there
Mhm.
will always be her story and these children's stories written forever.
Right. Right.
And I returned to the school. I had kind of a book pitch. I was all ready to kind of convince her to, hey, this is a great idea. We'll do this. We'll
Right.
raise money. We'll get the word out. And before I could do that, we were on a drive, and she asked me, "Hey, Joe, have you ever thought about writing about your travels and about your Fulbright in a book?" And I turned to her and I said, and this is in the book, I said, I don't really want to do that, but I would really like to write about you. Why don't we talk about writing a book about you?" And it was just this really a moment of serendipity. And
Yeah.
from there, the project really started. We had
What's
some
fascinating is the fact that, like, anybody that just, like, might just randomly be tuning in and just, like, listening to the story, like, you might think that we're talking about people that are, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old that have, blah, blah. No, like, when she started this, she was 27 years old.
Yeah,
27. It wasn't that long ago.
no,
And
not at
you're
all.
25. Like, these are this is today's generation changing the world. And that's why I'll never ever ever understand why anybody can, like, hate on this generation or the generation below us, or even the generation below them, because they're just like this unique sense of just strength that, might have been, passed down, but, like, the fact that people like you and her are able to legit change the world with these ideas, and to follow through with it. And now on February 7th, you're going to be publishing this book that you were talking about, is is that surreal for you? Like talk about the moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna write a
Yeah.
book about you, and now in less than a month, that book is actually going to hit the shelves. Is that how surreal is that for you?
Yeah, it is one of those things. I mean, I think for both of us, we've been so zoomed in on this project
Yeah,
that at times I think we've lost that kind of moment of like, wow, this is a really big deal.
right.
I think that there have been times in which I know the first time that Dora read the book, that was a really big moment. There were certain chapters that we read together that, like, after it was done writing, it was like, wow, this is a really big deal. I think
Mm,
once the book is in people's hands and once we have people reading it, that moment will kind of happen again.
right.
And the book, I've got it right here. Um,
Mm,
the the book, the real purpose of it all is to amplify her voice in this
right.
incredible story. And so with that goal, every TikTok we make about it, every time that someone asks me about it, this podcast, that's part of this greater ecosystem and this
Hmm.
greater mission that we have. And
Hmm.
so each one of those successes to us is a big deal as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's been a long journey, but a really incredible one.
Right, right. I wanna talk about the kids for a second. The students. You obviously got to spend, time with them and all of that. Tell me about that. Tell me about what it was like to spend time with these young people who were being helped by Dora's efforts.
Yeah, so the kids come from a lot of different backgrounds.
Mhm,
Right now, there's just shy of 200 students.
mhm,
There's about 100 that are boarding students, and then the other 100 are day students.
mhm,
And they, like I said, they come from all different backgrounds. There's a lot of abuse and neglect. I think would say
mhm.
neglect is probably the largest group
Yeah.
that are boarding students. And then, as you mentioned, Dora is an advocate to end forced marriage.
Mhm,
So there's a lot of kind of culture around some of the forced marriage stuff in some of these really rural communities where
right.
she is. And I would say from like a interaction standpoint, the kids were just really excited and welcoming to
Yeah.
have someone that wanted to come on their level. And I think that's what's great about Dora being really young. And for me, it was easy as well because we still look at ourselves and think we're kind of kids to some element. We
Right,
have that
right.
kind of like, hey, you want to play and hang out. Some of the best moments I had with the children were reading with them and working on the kind of reading
Mhm,
stuff. I sat in on a lot of math classes. One of my good friends, the teacher I became very close with, was a math teacher.
mhm.
And every Thursday there's a dance party, and so
Nice.
all these kids gather in a cafeteria, and like
Yeah.
it's just this craziness of like Dora's like she's standing in the front doing these choreographed, like they love the TikTok dances. So
Yeah.
like that My Bestie, Your Bestie
Yes,
song.
yes.
They're doing that, like then they're looking at me, pointing at me because they know I love that. And yes, the youngest is so Dora has a kid that was just born, is an adopted daughter that was just born a few months ago,
Yeah.
in November. And then the oldest student, I think, is 15 or 16.
Okay. Mhm.
And that the highest grade is sixth grade right now. So
Okay.
next year they'll
Mhm.
have a seventh grade, and they're going to try to continue to grow
Yeah.
kind of as these kids kind of mature out of primary school into secondary.
Right.
But that is all really dependent on funding and
Mhm.
what happens in the future.
Right. See, like hearing this story and the goal behind it, it seems like it's a pretty logical thing to get behind and to want to support. But Dora ran into a lot of issues. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that she, had to deal with while the growth of this school was taking place?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good thing to highlight. I think
Mhm.
one of the things a lot of people think about development and about humanitarian work is that people come in with quote help or whatever you want to, they want to dig wells, they want to build churches, they want to build schools, hospitals. And part of it is you have to have a cultural and an ancestral knowledge about the area to be able to do these things. And so Dora came in and she had the appearance of a poor person. She's living in a mud hut and
Mhm.
she was teaching these kids underneath the school, but she had this ability to conjure up food to feed these kids, and she was giving winter jackets away, and she was providing these resources to children while seemingly very poor.
Mhm.
And so right from the beginning, there was a lot of skepticism that she was a witch, that she was going to take advantage of children, that she was here for negative reasons.
Mhm.
And so she faced a lot of pushback from community members that really were there and would have benefited the most.
Right.
Her first GoFundMe, she tried to raise $5,000. She ended up raising $58,000. It
Wow.
was this
Mhm.
massive success.
Mhm.
And she, instead of taking, she wanted to drill two boreholes for the school and for the
Mhm.
kids. Instead of taking that $58,000, drilling two boreholes, building another classroom, and doing everything she wanted to do, she went and drilled three more boreholes just for the community. And that
Wow.
was not something that she had planned on doing.
Yeah.
And she was like, you know what, they need it. if we don't drill these, this community is going to suffer, and the
Right.
children are going to suffer then. And it was acts like that that I think started to get the ball rolling. But still, even so, she was telling me that when she drilled the first borehole for the community, many people weren't using it because they were like, it's poison, she's a witch, and
Mhm.
all of these rumors. And she's had to fight really hard for that. In her immediate community, the larger group has her back now.
Yeah.
But even so, I mean, there's, the communication isn't the same as it is in certain areas. And
Right.
obviously there's a lot more stigma to an outsider. And Dora
Mhm.
is an outsider. She's Zambian, but
Right.
she grew up in a different area. She isn't a villager, and in
Right.
some ways she never will be. And
Mhm.
that's not necessarily her fault or anything like that. But
Mhm.
she's always going to face and kind of be the underdog in this situation. But she's
Mhm.
done an incredible job of leveraging the teachers who are real advocates and all are hired from the area. They're all
Mhm.
within like 15 kilometers, which is
Yeah.
incredible because they've got these fantastic jobs and
Right.
they're teaching, these children that could have been them. So
Right.
she's done a
Right.
really great job at making it a grassroots effort, but still, I mean, cultural change takes many, many years. That's not something that happens
Right.
overnight.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so like, you know, even though so much has been done so far, it really hasn't been that long yet, right? So like,
Mhm.
what would you say is the goal for the next 10, 15, 20 years? Like, is it to how much expansion are we thinking about, number one? And number two, are we looking to go into other villages as well, or just like focus solely on that village?
Yeah, I mean, Dora, when she dreams, she doesn't dream very small. It's not this. I'll tell you. I mean, if you, it's one of those things that I think it was incredible to me. We were standing when I first visited. We're standing in a field, and she's telling me about all these things she's going to build, and I'm thinking, where's the money? Like, where is this going to come in?
Yeah.
And she's thinking, the money doesn't matter. The money's going to come because we're going to build it. And it's just this kind
Mhm.
of mentality.
I love
I,
that.
I I know that her immediate focus right now, she's working on building a hospital or
Mhm.
a clinic for the immediate village because like I said, it's a very rural area and no one owns a car. A few people own motorcycles. So like delivering babies, if your kid is sick, that can be a full day journey. Even though it'd be a hour long car ride, it can be a very, very long journey for some of these
Right.
people. So is focusing on building a hospital, and then very soon she'll need a secondary school for these
Wow.
children.
Mhm.
So she's kind of doing these two projects already are quite big. I think from a larger perspective, she definitely wants to go out into other villages and make
Yeah.
a larger impact around Zambia.
Mhm.
But again, Dora's not a small thinker. I think if she could and she had it her way, she'd get more money and she'd do this in many, many other places within Zambia and outside of Zambia as well.
Right, right, right. And I know this might be a tough question to ask when two dudes are talking, but women's empowerment here, like I've been very blessed to have interviewed a lot of different, talented, educated, wonderful, smart, funny women, that are just so driven, and their um um strength is so admirable, their skill is so admirable, their passion is admirable, right? What, in the best of your ability, what would you say is how does this affect women when they hear this story?
Dora gave a really great speech at the United Nations International Day of the Girl Child this past year in Istanbul, and the focus of that speech really was her tenacity. Dora looks at a problem and she doesn't think, where's the money or how are we going to do this or who is this going to necessarily help on the secondary scale. Her approach is to attack it and just go out and
Mhm.
try to do it and to keep doing it. And I think that no matter who you are, a man, woman, whatever,
Mhm.
there is such an incredible lesson to not look at a problem, but try to find the solution
Right.
first. Like what's going to fix this problem and just try to go out and do it. And I mean, Dora's story is incredible in part because for anyone that's a non-believer, they would read the first chapter or the first bit of the story, and there's no way this woman has a shot.
Mhm.
And quite honestly, that's why she's so inspiring. She
Right,
did
right,
something that 99.9 times out of 100 is never going to happen, and she's done it, and she's going to continue to do it. It isn't a fluke when you meet her and when you read her story. It isn't something that just fell into her lap. She didn't get lucky. This would have
mhm,
happened through TikTok or through Instagram, YouTube, through mailers, through some way she would have
right.
made it work. And I think that's one of those lessons that I think everyone can take away.
Yes,
And for
absolutely.
specifically women, her involvement in just trying to be so outspoken
Mhm.
against forced marriage and just that, hey, girls are powerful, girls can do this. She's a single mother to 13 children that she's
Right.
adopted. And I think that's an inspiration on a level that I can't understand. And I'm sure that you're probably the same as
Right.
I don't know what that's like. So I
Right.
can't even comprehend how impactful that would be
Hmm.
for, a woman in a rural part of Africa
Right.
to hear her story and feel
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
But just being me and being able to hear it, knowing how inspiring it is, I can't imagine for someone else who's in a
Right.
different
Right.
position.
And what's really exciting is that, like really, this is just the beginning, and there's going to be so many more stories to tell, with
Mhm.
this. And with that being said, though, the first story, I mean, February 7th, it's coming out, and I know that the proceed 100% of the proceeds go to Footprints of Hope. And what is the ultimate goal here, with the book?
Yeah.
What are we trying to accomplish?
Our goal is to sell 5,000 books. And I think that number, I think a lot of people are like, oh, it sounds small or whatever. But in 2020, 98% of books sold less than 5,000 copies.
Mm,
And our goal with the book is to educate people on who Dora is and what she's trying to accomplish here.
mhm,
And so when I think about, 5,000 copies, I think one, it's a lot of books if you're thinking about a publishing or whatever it is. And
right.
and the other thing is that that's 5,000 people that are involved in Dora's mission.
Right,
We
right.
want people to read this book and to be inspired to find their own Zambian tree, to find their own grassroots mission in their
Mhm,
backyard, whatever country, whatever community that's in. And we
mhm.
also want people to read Dora's story and say, hey, I want to be involved in this for the next 5 or 10 or 50 years and see where this can go.
Right,
And I
right.
think a book is a very unique way to do that because you become very tied to a mission. And I think when I think of some of the books that have impacted me, Paul Farmer is this incredible person. He started Partners in Health, a
Mhm,
very famous book was written about him in a somewhat similar style called Mountains Beyond Mountains. And Paul
right.
Farmer worked with AIDS patients in Haiti,
Mhm,
and worked in a number of different kind of medical fields in Russia and Peru. And I think about his story, and I'll carry that story with me forever.
right.
And that's a kind of a mission that I feel drawn to. And the only power that, that was a book. A book did that for me.
Mhm.
And so I'm hoping that this book can do that for many, many people.
Right. It's funny that you brought that up, because that was actually going to be one of my next questions in regards to if there were any authors or any books that you look to for inspiration, as you were working on this one.
Mhm.
Were there any other like authors or books that stood out to you in regards to putting this together or inspiring you?
I'm a big Tracy Kidder fan.
Mhm,
So he wrote a book called What Strength Remains, which is
mhm,
about a young man from Burundi. He moved to America, was homeless, and became a doctor in America, and then went back to Burundi. Just an incredible story. Lived through two civil wars,
mhm,
the Rwandan genocide and then the Burundi civil war, which is also a genocide. But there's
mhm.
some politics behind that if you know
Right,
some of the Central African
right.
history there.
Mhm,
But Tracy Kidder was a big influence.
right,
I'm a big nonfiction fan in general,
mhm.
so I kind of have a long reading list that I went through. But
Yeah,
the focus of the story really, and what was important to me, was that I didn't tell Dora's story. I let her tell certain aspects, and then I talked more about observations and things that I was seeing.
right.
Because this book is not a memoir. It's not Dora's words. It is part of her journey, and it's things that happened to her, things that happened while I was with her, what I witnessed. And that was important for both of us because we wanted to share where she's at in this
Right, right,
stage.
right.
Dora will someday hopefully write a memoir in 20 or 30 years, and it's going to be a very different memoir because
Mhm,
a lot is going to happen in the meantime.
mhm. And there's gonna
So
there's gonna be a movie. I hope you know this. There's gonna be a movie, and I
I
hope
hope so. That would be incredible.
I'm gonna be first in line to see it. I hope you know that. I wanna talk about you as well as a person that has traveled around so many different places. What's next for you? You personally, what are you looking to happen for you as the next step?
Yeah, so right now, my focus is 100% on trying to get the word out with the book launch. We're
Mhm,
trying to reach out to media. We're trying to just
mhm.
get Dora's story in front of as many people as
Yeah.
possible. Anyone who listen, I'll talk to them, and
Mhm,
Dora will too.
mhm.
So that's my goal through the book launch, and then Dora's actually going to be coming to the United States to do a
Mhm.
speaking tour. So she'll be speaking at some
Nice.
universities and whatnot at the end of February. So I'm hoping you two can meet when she's briefly
Absolutely.
on the East Coast. That'd be
Absolutely.
great.
Mhm.
Um, and then after that, I'm working on publishing my ecotourism research, and I'd like to continue to write and
Yeah.
continue to tell stories that impact people, whether
Right.
that's through writing books or through doing more research in remote areas. That's really
Right.
what I'm passionate about.
Right. How often are you looking to go back to Zambia to visit?
I think that I'll probably be back within the first 6 months of the year. I'd be
Okay.
surprised if I wasn't.
Right.
But I'd say it really depends on where this project goes. I mean, we're
Right.
really hoping that, ideally, it's one of those things where Dora can do some sort of speaking events other places, and I can go
Yeah.
see her there, and then I can come travel back to Zambia and see the school. It has so much potential
Yeah.
to impact so many people's lives, and I
Yes.
think it's from an outsider's perspective, and I think I always try to remind myself that this isn't an organization. It isn't a book. It's kids in a rural area. It's
Right.
always coming back to that, and
Hmm.
trying to remind myself of that. That at the end of the day, she's massively reduced human suffering.
Hmm.
There's 200
Hmm.
kids every single day that their life is so much better than it would have been,
Hmm.
and that's super powerful.
Right.
It's
Right.
been an incredible lesson for me, and I know that others have been inspired by it.
Yeah.
And I know that she can do so much more. So I'm really, really hopeful that this book can go out and do what we're trying to accomplish. And I know that Dora, regardless of how the book does and how her TikTok does or whatever happens, she's
Yeah.
going to continue to change lives.
Yeah, there's a quote that I saw on the website that I want to read out because I this quote just I love it. Dora says, "I was alone with my thoughts and dreams. It took everything I had to take that first step, saying to myself, I will let go of everything else and chase this one dream." Dude, that just like it just that just hit that hit different for me personally because in 2023, like my goal is to be, self-aware, to be driven in a way that I've never been driven before. And when I read this quote, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, this is like the perfect way to describe, for me personally. So I'm like, okay, I definitely need to, follow this along. And like I love this. This is incredible. So if people are looking to support this story, Under a Zambian Tree, if they want to buy the book, if they want to learn more about this, what can they do?
So the best way to support the book would be to buy a copy. So it's on pre-sale right now on Amazon. So if you just search Under a Zambian Tree
Mhm,
on Amazon, you'll find the pre-sale for the ebook. The
mhm,
print edition, both hardcover and softcover, will be available on February 7th.
mhm,
Um, Again, I would say, another way to support the book would be to go follow Dora, go follow me,
mhm.
spread the word. This is one of those stories I think that it's amazing to learn about what she's done, but also it'll inspire you to go out and do something great in your own community. And that's
Absolutely.
really what we're trying to do is make the world just a little bit better of a place.
Absolutely. And I'm going to include in the description of this podcast and this video, there's going to be links to everything here, including Joe's TikTok and Dora's TikTok. I'm going to have links there. I'm going to have links to the website as well, where you can get more information about this because, like, once again, holy cow. If you want to see a movie before it gets made, this real life story that's fascinating and adventurous and exciting, that's like still being filmed right now. Like this is just the beginning of it. You definitely
Yep.
want to go, check this out and follow the story. And listen, Joe, my final question for you is this, as we wind down here. If there's somebody listening right now that feels lost, that feels like they have this dream, but they don't know how to go about chasing it, they feel as though it won't be successful. They feel as though there's so many things that are like, no, you can't do this or you shouldn't do this, but they want to do it, but they don't know if they should. If there's somebody out there that's listening right now, what would you say to them?
I think I would follow in the footsteps of Dora and what she did in the sense that you've got to reach out to the world.
Mhm.
You got to put that dream out there. And if that's putting it out on TikTok, if social media, or if that's just putting it on a note card and looking at it in the mirror every day,
Mhm.
you got to put that dream out there. Because if you don't put it out there in writing or in video in a format that you personally are holding yourself accountable, it's not going to happen. And I think if
Right.
you put it out there in front of yourself, even it definitely you can make it happen. You've got to really go after it, and that's clear with what Dora's done. And similar to you, I mean, I was listening to one of your earlier podcasts. I really liked it. We were talking about failure and one of your earliest
Mhm.
failures. And
Yeah.
I have a question for you, which would be,
Yeah.
when are you going to write a book about that? Because that's the start of the
What's
story. I
funny?
mean, I was
I'm
listening to you
actually
talk about this bottom moment as a senior of high school, and I'm
yes.
thinking, this is a really good start to the book. Like,
Yeah.
hi, when is this happening?
It's funny you say that because I'm actually, like, no lie, working on my first book right now. What I
Congrats.
did last year was I spent about 6 months collecting stories from people around the world about their mental health. I let them send me their story. They could be a long story, a short story. It could be anything that they want to tell their journey. And I collected those stories, and I'm putting that in a book and combining that, interweaving my story with theirs. And the goal of this book is to help people understand that they're not alone. You know, that mental health doesn't discriminate, right? No matter where in the country or where in the world you live, whether you're Black, you're white, man or woman, you know, it doesn't matter. Mental health affects everybody, yet we feel so alone, right? I find that so ironic that like so many of us are affected by mental health journeys, yet we still feel like we're by ourselves. And my goal, you know, with that is to, you know, hopefully, you know, help at least one person. If I can help at least one person, you know, feel as though that they're not alone, that everything's gonna be okay if they just keep pushing and they believe in themselves and get help. You know, I'm a happy guy. If I sell one copy that's not my mom, then like we're all good.
That's incredible. I'll be looking forward to seeing that in the
Yeah,
next year.
man.
So
Oh,
awesome.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'm a
You gotta
perfectionist.
make it happen. Absolutely.
I'm a perfectionist, so I mean, like I'll be done, and then I'm like, no, I'm not done. I need to fix this, you know. So we'll see what happens.
That constant
Yeah,
battle,
man.
yeah.
But like legit, Joe, thank you so much, man, for sitting and chatting with me. My friends, go on the website, go follow Joe, go follow Dora, share this, because there are so many people, including yourself, that can get something out of this. And we only touched the surface. We didn't even like dive super deep yet. And there's even way more than we even got into today. And I promise you, this right here is a story that you definitely want to be a part of. It's definitely a story that, you know, is still ongoing, that you have the ability to affect to this day. You have the ability to play a role in this story. And so I really encourage you to read up on this, and reach out and buy the book. February 7th. February 7th, get the pre-sale. Go right now. Don't wait. Go right now on the website, get that pre-sold book, and we'll go from there. Joe, thank you so much, man. Honestly, thank you.
It was great to be here. Thank you so much, Kai.
Absolutely.
I'm serious. I'm looking forward to that book. You better text me when it's out.
I know I will. You know I will. I'm gonna have you read it first, because you're a published author and I'm not. So I'm gonna.
Well, we'll see. February 7th. After that, you can hit me
There
with
we
the book. Then we'll both be published. Yeah, exactly.
I'll send it to you February 8th, and then we'll go.
Okay.
We'll go from
I'll
there.
be free. I'll mark my calendar.
Oh my gosh, no, legit. Thank you so much. And to everybody that was watching or listening, if you enjoyed this and you want a little bit more, go follow me on all of your favorite social media platforms. Follow me at The Vibe with Kai. On all platforms, or you can visit my official website, thevibewithkai.com, where I will have even more information about Under a Zambian Tree there. So you can visit my website, get even more information, get that pre-sold book, all of that jazz. To my guest, Joe Schmidt, thank you so much. To everybody listening and watching, as always, much love, good vibes, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.